Pause this video right now and go and read Inglorious Empire by
Shashi Tharoor. And when you've read it, you can join us for the discussion.
Or you can join us anyway, because we're about to tell you all about it. I'm Elijah.
And I'm Joseph. And welcome to the Aisha Library.
Yeah, well, look, guys, it's going to get better every week. We've promised you an intro for about a month, and we finally got it. Even if I had to read it off my phone, we're going to get there. We're gonna. It's going to be like, synchronized. We're going to be...
Liquid.
But yeah. So, Inglorious Empire. It's about what the British Empire done to India. And it is mind-blowing. I'm going to start by saying, I'm furious! You people, you lot, want to talk about Hitler? You want to talk about Hitler? When we got Winston Churchill, who's about, 15 times worse, killed 15 times more people than Hitler?
He killed him about starvation as well. Like, he genuinely just killed
for no reason.
Negligence.
For no reason.
He killed him because...
Hitler at least didn't like the people.
He said because...
Churchill was like, whatever.
Literally.
Oh my God.
Horrifying.
Oh my God.
Horrifying. Do you want to read the blurb or no? We don't do blurb no thing no more?
Go on.
In the 18th century, India's share of the world economy was as large as Europe's. So one country having the same share of the economy as a continent. By 1947, after 2 centuries of British rule, it had decreased sixfold. In this work of non-fiction, author Shashi Tharoor shows how the imperialist despotism of Great Britain was founded on India's deindustrialization. You know, I keep saying Inglorious Bastards, by accident. Every time I kept saying, I've trained my brain now to say Glorious.
Is it because it's Indians? That's what they say. Bastard? That's what they say.
Already.
I don't know if that's racist. Is that okay? Do they say that though?
How far in are we? How far
is that okay? Already? I don't know.
You don't have any contacts sharing their location in the Find People app.
See, that's mad,
Oh yeah, I was supposed to show you something about
Give me
that.
these Decepticons, right?
Yeah. So for some reason, the author didn't explain exactly how the British got into power in India. He just started reeling off the fact that they raised taxes and the tax money went straight from India back to Britain. Just for clarity, India lost the war against Britain and the emperor at the time had to sign over some territories to the British. So the British came in and started inventing taxes just to steal money off the Indian citizens. They would say, we're raising taxes so we can build up the place, when in fact they were just stealing it for themselves, or should I say, ourselves. I don't know if I had that 100%. I don't know if I had that 100% right, because as I said, my one criticism of the book is that the author didn't explain how the British took over. He was just really... Because there was so much that the British done, he just started reeling off the facts. He just reeled off the facts. This is what they've done. This is how much people they killed. This is
like, by this year, the economy was this. And by this year,
so,
this.
I don't really know 100% how the East India Company, which is what they called themselves, took over.
Company,
But, I had to do my own little research. And basically,
the way I was getting the information from the book, it was like the East India Trading Company is like just a mega corporation that just set up in India, started gaining money, gaining power, gaining wealth, gaining influence, taking over more territory, buying more trading outposts, yada yada. And just basically becoming bigger. After like 150 years or whatever, obviously everybody there is long dead and this new generations have come through. They're just controlling India now, controlling this part, controlling this part.
Because, for example, the British went over there, started a company, a carpentry company, and because they were funded by Britain, so they had enough money to, make a big enough company, and what they do is they go to the other carpentry companies and cut off the farms of the other workers, so no one could make it. They damaged the place, cut off people's farms so they couldn't work, and they would be the only person that were in that industry, and then they would grow exponentially, which is ingenious.
I was about to say, ingenious.
But brutal, obviously.
Definitely.
The British found ingenious ways to steal money from India and simultaneously help out their mates, the Scottish. They flooded India's army with thousands of Scottish soldiers. And how does that help out the Scottish, you might ask? Well, those Scottish soldiers need to be paid. The Scottish soldiers get paid and send all their salaries back home to Scotland. All the businesses in Scotland benefit from the increase in the economy and making Scotland as a country much richer by hundreds of millions of pounds. Also, Millions of Indian soldiers were used to fight British wars all over the world. Did you know the Indian Army was the first of the soldiers in the trenches in World War One? This is while the British soldiers were still in training. Hundreds of thousands of Indian soldiers were sent to their deaths to buy time till the British were ready. So this is like what do you mean pause?
No, pawns.
Pawns. So this is after the Britain was in control of India completely. They just started using the soldiers for their own bidding, which is
just taking over the rest of the world.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Bankrolling the rest of the world. I put reparations paid to countries who have suffered under colonial rule. In the first chapter, we talk about the financial debt owed by Great Britain to colonies like India as reparations for the damage done to their economy and society over 2 centuries. An incalculably large number. They said it was equivalent to £3 trillion. You're never going to see that, ever. I don't even know if there is £3 trillion. There can't be. According to the author, many pointed out that Britain had no responsibility to pay anything, given that the perpetrators and the victims are all long dead. It was just like that, you know?
Which is true, but at the same time, no, it isn't true. You're right, because obviously, you know, the India in and of itself, obviously it's a rich country now, but it would still be, there'd be still more money in the society. There'd be buildings and facilities that would have been built if they had that money.
Yeah.
So, you know, they could funnel the money into India, but it would definitely go to the wrong places.
It definitely go to the wrong places. But what my point actually is that laws traverse generations, you know. Somebody somewhere signed a piece of paper that says you, Elijah, must pay taxes. Or obviously didn't say your name,
100%.
but like you pay taxes forever. If you don't, you go to prison. They sign it on your behalf. Do you know what I mean? And it's applicable to future generations forever. Yeah. To continuously make money, cash cow. So when people say, you know, even in Great Atlantic Slave Trade, you're free now. It's like...
The East India Company also removed and blocked as many Indians as they could from the government. In India, out of 4,000 members, less than 3% were Indians. All the rest were British. In their government.
Jesus.
The East India Company would systematically fire Indian members of government for stupid reasons, such as misrepresenting their age due to a typo. There were cases of Indian members of government removed because they asked for a better hotel room.
Jesus.
You know, something that a British man would be provided with. As you can see, the British purposefully, meticulously took control of India. In another example, there were Indian men that came out, top of their selection process, out of thousands of men, for a position in government, and they were denied entry because of their horse riding competence was apparently inadequate. So, you know, once the British kind of got into power, they used their powers to get rid of all the Indian politicians and members of parliament so that they could gain control of the top positions. So, yeah.
Why are Britain so good at conquering other places? Like,
I don't know if they're so good. I think everybody else is just so weak. Everybody else is just so passive. Because at a certain point... If it was me, I mean, I could say that. I could say what I want right now, and I will do. But yeah, if it was me, at a certain point, I'd say, yeah, you know what? Like, I don't care about rules, laws. We're taking them out. We're taking them out. They're coming out. Simple. We're not going to play this politics game. Them man are coming in, taking over. No.
Firing me.
There's guns for a reason.
Firing my guys.
Yeah, there's guns for a reason.
That can't happen. And it's like they decided we're going to fire you. Then they found the cause to fit. We've already decided we're going to fight you. We don't even know what for yet. We just know we want you out. So,
people are too passive. You got to be aggressive. Aggression is an emotion for a reason.
It has its place.
It's a time and a place. Basically.
It has its uses, 100%. Author Shashi Tharoor repeatedly exacerbates the moral responsibility of the leaders of the UK to atone for the damage done to India, rather than a financial obligation to balance a deficit. I thought it's a good thing he keeps saying that, because I was thinking... Does anybody actually get reparations? Has anybody ever actually got reparations? I know Germany paid reparations in World War I.
Do you know what? I've changed my stance.
Yeah.
I don't think India should get reparations. Why? Because guess who's paying it?
We've
got to pay it.
We've got to pay it.
And is it just for us to pay?
But that's exactly what they were saying. They was like, we weren't, you know, the people who are living in Britain now didn't profit or didn't directly profit off the... So they was like, why are you going to get reparations from? Where's the money going to come from?
But our society... is better as a because of it.
Our society's better because of it, but that's not
As in
fault,
our infrastructure. So they should take it back, innit?
But here's the thing, they live here as well. Do you know what I mean? So they're living under Indians live here as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well...
So, like, they're profiting from the same...
profiting.
But, but that's thinking nobody gets reparations. In 1865, when the US Congress ratified the 13th Amendment of the Constitution to abolish slavery, they were like, we apologise profusely. Black people said, we appreciate that. And the US was like, not you, the slave masters. You know, because they're the ones whose economy has been damaged, their capital has been lost. And, dry your tears with this money is basically what they said to the slave masters. The black people, they were like, don't we get any money? And the US was like, you want money, get a job, like the rest of us.
That's what you wanted, right?
That's what the rest of us got to do, get a job. So I don't think anyone really gets reparation. You might get whoops if you're lucky. You might get like, sorry.
I feel like Jewish people got some reparations.
Did they get reparations? I'm not sure. Fact check that. I know Germany paid reparations after World War One, and it literally bankrupted them to the point Hitler was allowed to take control and led to World War Two. So does that mean reparations is just like forget the whole thing?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. In the 1700s, newspapers were established in India. The Indian government that was run by the British obviously immediately took control of the newspapers. They passed a law that stipulated all newspapers needed to be approved for publishing every day. And if there was anything that casted the British in a negative light, it would be removed. And the head of the newspaper could be imprisoned and deported for treason. Free press. So as you can see, the British kind of muscled their way in, and then they started controlling the media. So the press was not free. It was all controlled by the British. When you control the news and the information, you control people's minds. You know, what does a newspaper do to your mind psychologically? You know, it brings you a sense of community. Without a newspaper, you don't know what's going on in your area, and you don't give a fuck either. But when there's a newspaper, you start to think, oh, what's happening in Brixton? What's happening in... Oh, someone got mugged or killed and this, that and the other. When someone controls the newspaper, they control the information. They control you, basically. You don't have freedom. The publishers of newspapers in India had to put up a deposit of £5,000 paid directly to the government, and this money would be forfeited if the newspaper posted anything that was negative towards the British occupiers. And £5,000 ain't a little bit of money. But 250 years ago,
I was about to say
250 years ago, that probably was 100 grand.
Yeah, I was about
you know. So they had the newspaper man.
They said you was a rich man if you made £1 a week. That's what they said. If you made £1 a week, you was a rich man, wealthy, wealthy. So most people was making shillings. Making shillings for the week. Rupees. So £5,000.
Yeah. So the British, they had India in a chokehold, mate.
Definitely in a chokehold. I put, is it better to be strong or smart? More specifically, is it better to be intelligent and weak or strong and, let's say, not so intelligent? The British East India Company set up trading posts when they landed in India, and over decades and decades gained more influence, but they weren't the only one. For example, the English contested with the Portuguese, the French, the Dutch for trading rights in India. A royal charter signed by Queen Elizabeth gave the East India Company the right to an army as well as the right to wage war in order to protect Britain's interests, economic interests. Eventually, they decided that the best defence was a good offence, and in 1757 they seized control of Bengal, started taxing the people, then used the tax money to buy goods from the people that they just took off them, and then exported the goods back to Britain. So they basically did pay for it.
Yeah.
My point is, India is a country with thousands and thousands of years of rich history, wealth, resources, knowledge, and it was taken over and bled dry by a tiny little island with no natural resources, no cuisine, not even consistent weather. Literally nothing. So, is it better to be strong or smart? Or, maybe to your point, is it better to be passive or aggressive?
Well, I know which one I'd rather be. In the first 150 years of the British reign in India, only a handful of British men had been convicted of murder, even though thousands of Indians had died at the hands of their colonial masters, the British. There was a case where a British man kicked an Indian in the belly as a form of punishment, which was common for second-class citizens. Anyway, the spleen was ruptured and the Indian guy died. The British man did not get done for murder or even manslaughter, and he was sentenced to 15 days prison time, and he was ordered to pay 30 rupees to the widower. There was another case where a British Lieutenant Thompson shot dead an Indian boy in the street. The angry villagers wrestled the gun out of the soldier's hand, and it was only the villagers charged, and they were handed 6-month sentences for the crime of misappropriating a white man's weapon. That was literally misappropriating a white man's weapon. Clearly, the British were above the law. They would do as they pleased. So the soldier executed the boy, Indian boy in the street, shot him dead because he got annoyed, and he just got off. He ain't go to prison. He didn't get nothing.
You can't take my gun. Literally.
So, yeah.
But yeah, no, that's literally crazy. In our own country, this is how it's happening. Literally, to your point, you got to rise up before that it gets to that stage where you have your own citizens getting shot dead in the streets, and they get convicted for taking like weapons away from. It's ridiculous that they let it get to that.
You would think, because as I was reading this book, I thought to myself, they say the British are gruesome. They say they colonized loads of countries. As I'm reading, I'm thinking, yeah, they've stole a lot bit of money. So it's not brutal though. It's not that bad or whatever. Until I got deeper into the book,
I was about to say,
and I was thinking, bloody hell! But we're gonna get to it.
We're gonna worse off. Literally,
we're gonna get to it. Go on.
But by 1920, the estimation was that half of India's revenue, was going out of India, mostly to England. 50% of the money in the country is leaving to go to England. But India didn't just finance her own oppression. The Indian taxpayer was also financing Britain's further conquests around the globe, all in the name of the glory of Great Britain. In fact, the salary of the Secretary of State for India, obviously a British person, was estimated to be equal to the average income of 90,000 Indians. That is insane.
I didn't even hear that one.
So the Secretary of State of India, who was obviously a British person, their salary was equal to the average salary of 90,000 Indians. 90,000 people make as much money collectively as the Secretary of State of India. That is disgraceful wealth. Disgraceful wealth. But this is what happens. This is what, for you to take, others must lose. Do you know what I mean? You have to take from somebody.
90,000.
Not 9,000, because I thought it was 9,000. I wrote 9,000, and I went back and looked, and I said, oh my God, it's 90,000. That is insane. It's ridiculous money. It's like I said, it's the greed that they talked about in the Bible, one of the deadly sins. These guys were living good. They was eating good, since obviously English cuisine is clear of English cuisine. And they were making disgraceful shillings.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Not that I share the sentiment, but I do see why royalists and British people are so boastful of being Great Britain, because they're like, yeah, we had like the world pattern basically. Yeah, and the world pattern, like you work like your shillings are my shillings.
The British performed massacres on the Indian people who would peacefully protest against British rule. On an occasion that was recorded, British soldiers opened fired. Let me start again. On an occasion that was recorded, British soldiers opened fire, killing 273 Indians. They were unarmed and they were peacefully protesting.
Jesus.
There was also a case of British soldiers accusing 350 Indians of being mutineers. They tied them all together and shot them from 30 yards away. There had been no trial or no opportunity to explain themselves. 5,000 civilians were slaughtered during the revolts in 1857. It was said General James George Smith was particularly bloodthirsty. Literally target practice. The orders were to go out and shoot every soul.
Jesus.
Muslims hiding in mosques were plucked out and shot. Mass hangings were normal. I just want to stress the fact that there are too many incidents of mass shootings for me to mention. I don't want you guys to think that this only happened a few times. There are 20 occasions of incidences where soldiers are ordered to expend their ammunition into crowds of thousands of people, killing thousands. If I mention them all, we'd be here all day.
We'd be here all day. We're literally already almost here all day, to be fair. But literally, that is insane. It's genuinely insane.
It was crazy. There was a case that I'm referring to where I think after the peaceful protest, there was another peaceful protest, and the British didn't like that. So they diverted some soldiers down to the area that people were protesting on. The soldiers took a while to get there, so the soldiers arrived the next day. After the protest was done, the soldiers decided, yeah, we're gonna, tighten up the rules around here. They said no gathering, no loitering. And this happened to be on a religious day, or an important religious day. So people started gathering outside a church or whatever is, these lot.
Yeah.
This man marched the soldiers down there about 100 yards away, and he said to his soldiers, expend every ammunition,
Literally.
every bullet we have.
Nobody
And
come back with
He just shot into the crowd of thousands of people. He ordered his soldiers, we're going to waste all our ammunition. They killed thousands of people. And then he ordered everybody to go home. He said, if you can walk, if you can move, go home. If you can't, lie there. And he said, no one's helping you. If you are seen helping anyone, we're shooting you too. Everybody go home. Why do they do that? For no reason.
How do you even move all those bodies in the street? What do you do with all those bodies? You can't bury them. Like, who's going to dig the graves to bury them?
Crazy. This is what the British did. This is what they did.
Christ. This is
This
now
is what you did. Your people.
Now we understand why the British are coming. It's like a thing.
Days.
It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous, the level of brutality, the level of...
These are recorded incidents.
lack of regard or concern for human life.
Do you think any of these people got prison time? Did they get remanded? Even a slap on the wrist? Nothing.
Definitely not.
Nothing.
Definitely not. Listen, it's all for the glory of Great Britain, right?
No.
We're furthering the glory of Great Britain. I put, are Brits the greatest conquerors of all? Conquest is a repetitive practice throughout human history, whether Genghis Khan, Alexander the Great, Hitler, or probably most notably the Roman Empire. Is Great Britain the best at it though? At the peak of her powers, Britain governed 23% of the world's population and covered 24% of the Earth's land area. They in fact called it the empire on which the sun never sets, because the sun was always shining on at least one of its territories. And that much land, they said we always could see the sun from here.
Yeah.
As of 2024, English is the world's most spoken language, beating out Mandarin Chinese.
No.
With 1.4 billion speakers, English is the most spoken language in the world as of 2024. Literally.
Oh, do you know what it is? Because the Chinese and the Indians both speak English.
Yeah, literally. But we don't speak Chinese.
We don't speak
nothing. We speak English.
That is so true,
It's ridiculous.
The Chinese and the Indians, they got us outnumbered.
Oh, definitely. India. How many people in India?
Bro, you know how much people are in the USA? Only 350 mil.
Yeah, nah.
In the whole USA, the great USA, 350 mil. So
Literally.
in Africa, they got 2 billion. So there's a different type of soldiers.
Literally.
Even in Russia, they've got a lot of people. Just sidetrack, Russia is teaming up with China.
Oh, God.
China's got billions, right,
literally.
of people. If they said, all the men are fighting, it's screwed. America. I just said 350 million people. If every one of them picked up arms, that's men, women, children, babies.
Yeah.
They picked up arms versus China.
Yeah, it's not.
It's not Russia.
It's not a contest.
It's
that's
crazy.
only if every single man, woman, and child, and baby,
That's
which would never happen.
Yeah.
But I think the Chinese standing army is like 2 million soldiers, which is nothing compared to their population.
Yeah.
But that is a crazy thing. Like Britain has nowhere near that level of manpower. Like, we're understaffed, in fact, I think.
Yeah, it's because British people don't fight. You get everybody else.
Yeah, no, legit, 100%. As of 2024, English is the world's most spoken language, beating out Mandarin Chinese with 1.4 billion speakers. It won both world wars, literally started America, all thanks to one tiny island that is so vanishingly small in comparison to other countries that it could fit into the United States 40 times over.
Really?
Literally could fit 40 times over to the United States, but that kind of makes sense because it fits Texas once. It's 50 states, so more or less. But yeah, no, that is crazy. England is tiny and took over everything, but that is typically with like Rome, tiny, took over everything. Do you know what I mean? So
sometimes small things have a lot of power.
Small
things
things,
like a bullet.
Yeah, legit, 100%. It's indication of potency. Here's another question. Are we so good at conquering because we've been conquered so many times? Because I'm reading up on this.
By the Romans, isn't it?
The
Romans, I guess we are of the Romans.
Yeah, no, 100%. But I put the Celts invaded Britain, the Danes, the Angles, the Saxons, the Vikings, the Normans, and the Romans. The Romans invaded 4 times.
Yeah,
they came
back.
back. They said it was so nice you have to do it twice. They did it another twice. Like Caesar got 2, Caligula got 1,
Hadrian.
Claudius got 1. Hey, oh my God, I forgot about Hadrian. See, that's 5.
I told you, I read the
It's
book
literally
on
5.
history. Yeah,
So Britain literally got slapped around so much we decided to get our lick back. And we looked at India like this. You looked at India like this.
Yeah, they said this never again, eh?
Never again.
Yeah.
Britannia rules the waves.
And then even 1066, isn't it?
Yeah, literally.
So,
that's Normans. I think that's Normans. Yeah, it's Normans.
Well, that's Queen Elizabeth's people. That's the Germans. It's got to be Germans.
No, Normandy, innit? Which is like France-ish.
We need to read the book on that.
I believe.
But
I believe
apparently that's when the British family took over though. Here in 1066, and they changed. Did you know that they changed their name because of the World War? They had some German name, and then they changed it to the Windsors though.
Yeah, they had because they're German or whatever.
Yeah,
I don't even know what their name was though.
Who cares? In the 200 years of British rule in India, they were directly responsible for famines from 1770 to the 1900s. 20 million Indians are estimated to have died in famines, compared to only 5 million deaths throughout the entire deaths from wars from 1793 to 1900s. So in all the wars in the whole world from 1793 to 1900s, 5 million people died, compared to the 25 million Indians who died from starvation.
Jesus.
And that was directly because of British rule.
Yeah, because them crippling like the farmers and crippling like all the businesses in India and like making sure the British.
What they're doing is the grain. Well, I'm gonna explain anyway.
Yeah.
This does not include the death toll of the Great Famine from 1943 during World War II. So those 25 million deaths of Indians starving does not include the death toll of the Great Famine in 1943 during World War II, where Britain stole 27 million tons of rice and wheat from India to send to Britain, resulting in 15 million Indians starving to death. You can say what you want about Hitler. You can say what you want about Hitler, but the number speaks for themselves. Hitler killed 1.7 million Jews. It was Winston Churchill, who was the Prime Minister in 1943, who sanctioned the deaths of 15 million Indians. I want to make it clear, it was not a case of us versus them. The British stole the grain to sell to rich countries that was not in need. What do people do? What do people who have money in tough times do? You stock up. So the rich countries didn't need the grain. But, wartime, let's get an extra, keep it in the vaults.
Live in comfort.
And then we've got Indians, millions,
in fact,
tens of millions.
They said they were crying for the water from the rice because they knew nobody had any rice to give anybody. So they were begging for the water that people cook their rice in. Literally, because they had nothing to eat, nothing to drink.
Indian mothers sold their children for a bowl of soup. Husbands pushed their wives into the lake so as not to see them suffer. Remember, the British owned the press, so all this information was suppressed. When the information finally did come out, and Winston Churchill was challenged, he said, "That's the Indians' own fault for breeding like rats. Too many mouths to feed." He denied any responsibility. He was challenged again, where the reporters explained that it was his actions that directly caused millions of unnecessary deaths. He said, "Damn, why isn't Gandhi dead yet?"
Yeah, he did not like Gandhi.
This is to the press he's talking to.
Literally.
Apparently, Churchill was a despicable man, and we're going to have to read up on him.
Oh, definitely, man. It's ridiculous. I have points. I was going to say, but I have a point later, to be fair. Fiscal manipulation. Fearing that the depreciation of the Indian rupee would affect the sterling value of British assets in India, in the late 1920s, the British removed approximately 1 billion rupees from circulation. They just took the money out just to preserve the exchange rate of the Indian money. So obviously this is what feeds into the Indian starving because they're just losing money.
Yeah.
According to the author Thoreau, however, the British didn't merely take from India the world, they also gave things like language, banking, Protestantism and common law. In common law, previous decisions became legally binding precedent. So let's say I steal medication because I can't afford it. The judge might say, your parents are sick, so you're not going to give you community service, no jail time, is what it is, off you go. If you steal medication now it is legally binding that you get community service because it's been established in the court before. That's how common law works, basically. It's what we have. Whereas before, in ancient law systems,
it's case by case.
It's case by case, but it'll be codified. It'll be written on a document or it'll be chiseled into stone. Thief, get hand cut off. Okay. That's it. Literally, like 10 commandments, Moses, chiseled into stone. So it doesn't matter what the judge... The judge and the lawyer is not there to interpret the law. They're just there to. That's it. They try and throw the book at you. You be like, you let Joseph off easy. You have to let me off easy. That's how it works. Precedent.
Yeah, listen. Do you know what? I can't. We're not saying that the British didn't do any good things over there.
Yeah, no.
But I didn't feel like it was. I don't know. Maybe it's better to give the whole picture, but
it's disproportionate to what the damage
it
they
definitely
caused.
is. I've only got
Largely
2 or 3 more points. By the way.
Alright.
But yeah, I don't think it's interesting that we can read the same book and you're telling me things that I didn't hear, and we've got different notes as well.
Legit, and you
like
said
I was worried that you're gonna have all the things that I have.
that's what I always think, but yeah, that's what literally I always
But
think.
it doesn't
There's a couple
happen.
of things that I didn't even literally.
Yeah.
I don't even remember reading today.
Yeah, especially like the salary thing.
Yeah, nah. When I saw that, I said, I had to read it again.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me go again. The retroactive beautification of Winston Churchill. I hate Indians. They are a beastly people with a beastly religion. Winston Churchill's alleged comments on Indians. As someone who grew up in London, the more extremist views and comments of Britain's former Prime Minister are rarely brought to light. When I heard he said this, I was like, surely not the cigar guy. I thought he was a good guy.
Yeah.
I thought he was one of us.
Yeah.
Like, growing up, most of what I know about Winston Churchill was he was former Prime Minister. He was the guy that said, we shall fight them on the beaches, you know, them being the Nazis or whatever.
Yeah.
And they named a car insurance advert after him. That's all I know about Winston Churchill.
Pretty much.
What British people often aren't taught about Churchill is that he was a staunch supporter, defender of the imperialist despotism of the British Empire. He was a Darwinist who believed that Britain's conquest of the globe was a consequence of natural selection. The strong should see their wealth and power increase, the weak should see their wealth and power decrease. So he's like, you getting conquered is your own fault for being weak, basically.
I kind of agree though.
It's your.
It
has logic behind it. There's logic behind it.
No, the thing is, right? I'm the type of person that takes responsibility for my own actions. If I get conquered, yes, it was my fault. I should have spent more time defending, if my house gets burgled, it's my fault. I should have locked it. I should have had some form of security. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, no,
so it's
I
not
know.
wrong.
There's logic
it's not
behind
wrong, but the point is, right, you just can't say those things. You can't say those things.
No, you definitely can't.
And a lot of people kind of work on this moral compass. Oh, it's not right to do that. Sort of thing.
He was like, he saw conquering as like altruism, like it's a win-win. It's better for you because we're teaching you how to be civilized like us, and it's better for us because we're taking your money. Like,
I don't. If you stand to benefit from billions of pounds, most people aren't going to say no to that. But it's just it's the massacres and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's that unnecessary.
Yeah,
unnecessary.
It was so much that they've done. It's crazy.
When you talk about the shootings and things like that, when they're just shooting into crowds of thousands of people, like
people
what money does that gain you? Like what political or financial advantage do you get?
Soldiers were above the law. I mean, I kind of understand it to a degree, but I honestly think it was just the soldiers are above the law and they see it as target practice. And if you can murder and get away with it and there's no repercussion, there are people out there that will just do it.
And look, back in them times, Britain is literally it's just brown people anyways. It's not like people. Do you know what I mean? It's just brown. Like there's loads of them breeding like rats or whatever.
I have to assume that the actual reason is that they wanted to nip it in the bud. So even the peaceful process, nip it in the bud because we don't want to lose control.
Definitely.
What did they say? Well, obviously, basically they said something along the lines of, how did the British, who had 1% of the population, they were less than 1% of the population, how did they control, 150 million people at that time? Maybe it was more than that, I don't know. But Sashi, Thoreau, he said it was amazing that the British could keep control with so few people and so few soldiers.
Ridiculous. But yeah, it was like, if you weren't so barbaric and uncivilized, we wouldn't be forced to invade and conquer you. This is really your fault.
Crazy.
It's like Churchill. And it's weird because he's a hero, he's like a national hero, and like you hear all about him growing up and he's like, yes, he fought the Nazis. You don't hear about any of this. Any of it. Yeah, do you want to go? Or I can go again.
I've got 2 more, so I can. But
I've got 2 more as well.
Alright, that's fine. So, in short, how did Britain's colonisation of India end? In short, World War II. Britain was badly damaged from German bombing, poor from all the borrowing and spending on the military, and they were also unable to raise the 60,000 soldiers they thought they would need to regain control in India. So in short, Hitler saved India, which is a funny way to look at it.
It is a funny way,
Joseph. But it's kind of true.
Look, it's inadvertently he saved India. He didn't start it to save India, but
No. It's
the action,
externality.
Yeah, externality. It's a good way to put it. Yeah.
That's a new word.
Yeah,
What's a new word for
literally.
me anyway. External. So yeah, it is indirectly saving India. So should that Indians be happy that Hitler killed millions of Jews?
Well, that's also because you feel if you say yes, you're like, oh, moral compass. You see what I'm saying? Moral compass.
No, but
moment
Indians
where
want to
you're
be free. So should they be happy?
Well, look, I don't think Indians have any responsibility to feel any kind of anything toward the tragedies of Britain or anything that happens to British people, given like 2 centuries of like murder and mass.
But can you say you're a good
and things like
person
that?
if you and you're happy that the fact that millions of people are massacred?
Well, if you're happy that we are now free, we are
That's
now
what I
free.
asked.
Do you know what I mean?
Can you be
whatever happened to secure us that freedom wasn't me.
Yeah, no. But
Do you see what I'm saying?
but
I'm
Do
happy
you have
you're
a
free.
moral responsibility to feel sad?
Do you have a more responsibility to feel bad that you're free? Is that what you're asking?
No,
Do you know what I mean?
No,
So it's like-
I know what I'm asking, but I'm just asking what you think. And
No,
you
but I'm
don't
saying,
answer anymore.
no, I'm saying I don't think you have a moral responsibility to feel bad that you're free. I think you
But
don't.
being moral is about being a good person. That's what the
It's
whole
about,
thing is about.
It's not necessarily being a good person because good is subjective. Morality is also subjective. Having said that, the definition of morality, being a moral person, is having codes that you believe should be lived by, and you live by.
And
them.
you're supposed to feel sad if other people are hurt around you. You're supposed to want to make the world better.
Not necessarily you're supposed to feel sad. I don't necessarily think you're supposed to feel sad because
Good person does.
the amount of people in the world you can't feel sad about if you don't have enough emotional capacity to feel.
No, but if you
for everybody.
directly know that we could still be, basically, you thinking or realizing that the fact that Hitler caused Britain to be so poor because they took so much of their resources to war, whatnot, and the only reason why that happened is because Germany wanted to take over the world and kill those Jews. Should you feel happy that it happened?
Should you feel happy that all
But
the
you,
Jews
can you say glad that happened because now we're free? Because if you went on
To be
TV
fair,
and said that,
you know, if you're on TV, you can't. You would never.
yeah,
you wouldn't be on
can't,
TV
yeah,
again.
but
you could backdate it and be like, all the domino effects leading up to World War II. Okay, are you happy that those happened? Do you see what I'm saying? You have to be happy about. Do you have to necessarily pick the biggest, baddest tragedy that you can imagine? Be like, I'm happy about that specifically because there's loads of domino effects. that lead up.
But you could say I'm glad Hitler tried to take over the world. But
Yeah.
then you would still be saying you're glad.
You would still be saying.
You'd still be saying you're glad for the tragedy too. I don't think there's anything wrong with Indians saying that because they're free.
Oh, yeah,
and
again,
also got to remember, not to belittle anything.
Yeah.
But Hitler killed 1.7 million Jews.
Yeah, by comparison,
Indians were dying from starvation in 25 times the death toll.
In
Even
India.
no,
In
more
India.
than 25 times the death toll. More than 25 times the
Literally.
death row. And that's not even to mention all the British soldiers that were spraying and praying.
and that's not even to mention the Great Famine that came after.
Yeah,
in the
well,
World War. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. So it's,
ridiculous.
you know,
It's ridiculous. I put the quintessentially British Museum. I remember visiting the British Museum was little. In fact, we both went. You see bronze plaques from Benin. You see Greek amphoras and jars.
I don't
You see
remember.
statues and artifacts from Ghana. To be fair, the Benin plaques is the only one I really remember. I know what else is there because I've googled it now. But the Benin plaques is the only one I really remember. But yeah, you see the bronze plaques from Benin. Statues, artifacts from Ghana, all this stuff. Lots of stuff in lots of different countries, but nothing from England. That's what you don't see. Anything from
Really?
England. You don't see it. On the website, it says that the collection was acquired in a variety of ways, which is a pretty British way to say we shot a bunch of people and took it. Pretty much. We found it in your house. To be fair, you know what it's like? There is a rapper, there's a bit left, there's a rapper called Fetty Wap, right? A couple of years ago, someone snatched his chain and then they posted the picture on Instagram wearing the chain. And that's what the British Museum feels like. They're literally just there like, we took all this shit and we're not getting it back. Literally.
It is true. And there's do you know what the British people's argument normally is? Oh, it's safe in here.
Yeah,
and it's legitimate because didn't you hear about? I think this happened a while ago. Basically, one of the oldest pieces of art that was in the Middle East, Taliban took over this place and just shot it to pieces. It was this wall, marbled wall, and it was like 11,000 years old or something like that. Inscriptions from however long ago. And you know how these so-called Muslims are, or some of the Muslims in general, they're not allowed idols and whatnot.
Yeah.
You know, so if you worship something, they're destroying that.
Yeah.
Apparently, even the Kaaba, they want to they basically want to the Taliban's want to destroy the Kaaba because people go there and they worship it.
Yeah,
and they're not
yeah.
supposed to. You're not supposed to worship it. So basically, that's the British's argument. You know, people take over different territories and they destroy artifacts and stuff.
To be fair, they have basis or precedent, again, I should use the word precedent, again, to say these things because they already got stolen once. Do you know what I mean? Yes, the British were the ones who stole it.
Oh, you're saying,
like,
you got it
yeah,
stolen
that's what I'm
already.
saying. You had it, and how do you have it no more?
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? And nobody stole it from us.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
That's
so,
what I'm
yeah,
saying.
when the guys snatched this guy's chain, obviously his foolishness was swiftly punished. As soon as the police saw it, he was arrested immediately. He's in jail now. But the point is, like, after India gained their independence, they were like, so, when can we have our stuff back? Britain was like, yours, no, not getting that back.
Law
David
of
Cameron,
usage.
literally, David
That's
Cameron
what-
said, you are not getting that back. He said, if you want it, come and take
Come
it.
take it.
Come take it. That's the only
You know where
language.
it is.
yeah. Literally, yeah, it's easy to find.
The British didn't just rape, murder, and sell Indians into slavery. They didn't just steal money, rob jewels, and precious materials. They also damaged and robbed the land. They razed rainforests that were rich in wildlife to the ground. They sent hundreds of thousands of tons of Indian wood back to Britain, for free. They flattened jungles, driving the Asiatic lion and tiger to extinction. Why? So that they could grow poppy seeds for opium to sell in the Chinese market and for teas that were sold all over the world. So that was one of the things that the author said, that basically Britain brought tea to India. So we say we get tea from India, right?
Yeah.
We stole it from India, but it's kind of true. But we kind of made it popular. So Indians had tea, and we kind of stole that idea.
Yeah.
But what happened was the British were chopping down the land to grow tea to send back home to Britain. But at some point or another, no, I think they were selling it to the Indians. They were selling tea to Indians,
Yeah,
and then
were.
at some point or another, they decided to sell it to the British as well. I can't remember the actual reason why, but they just hijacked the market. That's what they do. That's
Yeah,
what they
pretty
do.
much.
Whatever's
Where do
good,
these guys
go over
learn-
there.
Where
take
do these guys
over.
learn
They don't
these
even think of
tactics?
that. They don't even think of new markets. They go over there.
Literally.
Yeah. That company, that organization's good. We're taking it.
That's the crazy thing, because like India's here reeling from all these losses, like can't eat, can't feed their families, markets getting shut down, people are losing their jobs, economy's decimated. And while they think like Britain are like put on them, Britain are thinking, yeah, we're cutting down these forests, so we can sell to China. We're on the next. You see what I'm saying? We're moving on, making more money off some. Where do they learn this? Where do you guys learn this despotism, this supervillain kind of?
It's genius.
It's just it's genius, but it's crazy, and
it's
it's also
horrible.
it's ridiculous. Oh, it's just disgraceful. It's disgraceful.
I mean, do you know what it is? You got to remember that. Oh, that's amazing. So basically, you see India. It was a rich country. They've got loads of land. They can do what they want. Britain is a small island. They have to outsource.
yeah, no,
They ain't got no choice but
They
to
do.
look out,
There's
because they
nothing
can't.
there.
We don't have 1 million acres to grow 1 million poppy seeds. We got to use
and
your
attract,
land.
and attract conquerors.
Yeah.
By
We got to
building
use somebody
currencies.
else's land. Do you
Yeah,
know if that makes
literally.
sense? So that's why it happened. That's why a small island decided to take over the world, because they had no choice.
Just
That's
build,
kind of true.
you must build navy to get places because you're an island.
That is true.
It
They
genuinely
had no
is.
choice. So is it? That makes it, to me. It makes their actions less evil because it was out of necessity to a certain degree. They didn't have to decide to be a super rich country. They could have just moved somewhere else that was more sustainable. But they said
100%.
no. We will bring
And if they
everything
chose to
us.
live within their means and just have what they had, they would have been like India, which is what India did. And like they
No, but
when
we
conquered,
couldn't.
took everything.
No, but
obviously we couldn't have.
you couldn't,
because
because
there's not enough.
land.
The country's not as rich
Yeah,
in terms of resources. So what that makes it not evil or less evil to a certain degree.
only a 1%.
1%.
Because they didn't have to be it didn't have to be Great Britain.
Literally, yeah.
It could have just been modest Britain.
Yeah, yeah, no, legit.
You know.
But that's why the soldiers like were above the law and things like that. It wasn't just about the money. It wasn't just we want to financially profit. It was we are grand.
Yeah.
We are Great Britain, and it's like yes, the soldiers they do what they want because we are us and you are you. Shoot. That's literally the...
Yeah, I completely agree.
It's strange growing up in England. You know about these things, like, Britain's involvement in the slave trade, the colonisation of India, Jamaica, Haiti, Hong Kong. Britain's influence is seen literally everywhere. And so is our language. You feel kind of bad like being British. I know we're not really British in the sense like our, you know, forefathers from Jamaica, yada yada, but it's like the realization you're like, oh, we're the bad guys, because like everyone grows up thinking they're the good guys, isn't it? What's interesting though is like almost every country, empire, nation has to take from others in order to be great. Like you can't generate things from nowhere. Do you know what I mean? You got somebody else must.
Well, especially because, you know, it seems like all the good stuff's in Africa and India.
Yeah.
They got all the diamonds, they got all the gold. So, you know, we got to take it.
Literally.
It's as simple as that. But I actually differ to you on the previous point. You know, I'm not white, but I felt some sort of pride for the British Empire because I didn't know anything about it. I just thought, yeah, we colonised those places. I didn't even know what that meant. I just thought, yeah, we ruled them. You know, I didn't know about these massacres. I didn't know about the stealing of food and this, that, and the other. I just thought, whenever they took control, maybe there's a couple of wars, but it's their fault. Why did they beef up their armies or whatnot? But he did say in the book that most people are proud of the British Empire. They're proud to be British, and I think it's the same thing because you just hear British Empire. That sounds cool. It sounds good to me.
I think it's probably justifiable for some people to be proud of the British Empire. Obviously, loads of atrocities happen, tragedies happen, but it's like, is it reasonable to expect someone to be ashamed of being on the winning team? Is it reasonable to be
I know where I'd rather be.
Exactly, that's what I'm thinking. It's like, you want to be on the winning team also. You're complaining because you're on the losing team. Do you know what I mean? It's the whole reason we're even having this discussion. Without being too insensitive, but it's like...
No.
Is it like... It's not reasonable to expect people to complain about being on the winning team. And it's like, even in things like, you know, Great Atlantic Slave Trade, white people, you know, saying civil rights for blacks and things like that, you can't really expect white people to do that and like leave the winning team and join the losing team. That's not smart to do that.
Yeah, no, please.
So when people are like, you're proud to be the great British Empire, great. Like, life was probably amazing for British people. You know?
I don't know if it was. I mean, look, the money was coming in, but where was the money going? That's the question. It wasn't, I don't think the British were saying to everyone, hey, well, I think it was some rich men.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Pocketing the money.
Well, look, rich people need poor people.
Yeah, of course.
Rich people need poor people.
Poor people need rich people.
Huh?
Poor people need rich people.
Yeah, no, literally.
Give us our jobs, please, massa.
100%.
You know.
Literally. But if everyone's rich, then no one's rich.
Yeah, of course. And if everyone's poor, no one's poor.
Yeah.
All in all, the ingenuity of the British in meticulously, continuously robbing the Indians for hundreds of years is amazing. But you think to yourself, or at least I thought to myself, why did they do all the espionage? Why didn't they walk in there, open the vaults, rob them blind? They had an army, right?
Do you know what? Maybe I'm thinking they originally actually wanted to trade there, and then they was like, wait, why are we doing all this hard work with these lot? Like, over like 150 years later, or whatever, when the position has been solidified in India, and they control this port, and they got soldiers here, and they're thinking, we're taxing these people, why don't we just tax everybody?
Yeah, no, it was definitely that, because you got to remember, it wasn't a span of 40 years. You know, one ruler had this idea, it was a span of 200 years, it's outlived everybody who was involved, right?
Everybody who was at the start was not there at the end.
Yeah. So it was just the way the things work. But I realised the reason why they had this empire, this, you know, where they basically gave with one hand and robbed with the other hand. Like it's all this pretense, this espionage, as I call it. I believe the reason why they done it this way was because you can only loot and rob a country once. An actual war will start and there'll be repercussions to your actions, you know. But if you covertly, systematically hold one helping hand out and with the other hand you are emptying the pockets, you can continuously empty the pockets without the rest of the world realising for 200 years.
Literally. And that's why I said, are Britain the best conquerors? Because they must know something we don't, but are they the best at it?
Yeah. So is that you done?
Yeah.
So, you know, I have only one thing to say, Mr. Churchill, Mr. Winston Churchill. If you are listening to this, we are coming for your ass. Pause. Wait, what do you mean we?
You know what the funniest thing is?
What do you mean we? I come for his ass. What do you mean we?
What do you mean me?
What do you mean we?
After reading this, does it make you more proud or less proud to be British? How do you feel about being
Well,
British after reading
definitely.
this?
Look, in real terms, it doesn't affect me.
Yeah, no, of course not.
Doesn't
But like,
affect me.
just in your mind, because obviously you're reading about the atrocities. You're thinking, you feel a certain way about it.
Apparently, loads of Indians know about this. I'm telling you, none of them. There's no one knows about this in Britain.
Literally.
And this is what we're doing. We're telling you right now.
Literally.
Because this information, I don't know if it's suppressed or what, but no, I didn't know about this.
I knew stuff happened, and I knew Britain took over India. And
Yeah,
I knew,
but you
we took all their tea, yada, yada,
you didn't know
yada.
about soldiers mowing down people.
Even in horrible histories, like they would say stuff about like Britain and India. They didn't say none of this. They didn't say anything about 25 million people starving to death.
Yeah.
And like Churchill was just like, why didn't Gandhi die too? Like that's crazy that he said that.
Yeah. We're definitely going to be hitting some more of these. We're definitely doing history, and we're definitely going to touch on the British Empire. But yeah, you're welcome. We're going to tell you more. Oh yeah, we're doing Winston Churchill next.
Yeah, literally. We are.
When we're touching history again, we've got a couple books coming out. A couple books like we're authors. Well, you are. But yeah, we're gonna touch on a couple books. But in a couple of weeks, we're gonna deal with Winston Churchill once and for all, and we're gonna let the British people know who he really was, because we seem to think he was some hero. I mean, even in World War II, he didn't do anything. He didn't go on. He wasn't on the front lines, and it was effectively Russia that won us the war. You know. So, but we say he gave a couple good speeches, so that's why we think he's all good. But we're gonna go for him. We're gonna go get him.
Literally.
But all in all, the book's well worth reading. I actually found it very difficult to get into in the very couple of first beginning chapters.
I thought
it's like I had to recalibrate my mind, because we're so used to doing the storybooks and stuff.
It's just names, dates,
you know.
dates.
But it started getting really interesting. You know, finding out about all this stuff. But yeah, well worth to read. You don't have to read it now. We've told you all about it, but you can. I would recommend it. You know, we didn't touch on everything. We touched on a fraction, but yeah.
I definitely recommend it. Where do you think it ranks in like?
I think it's the best book we've read.
I'd hoped you'd come off that way, because I know you said that before. I'd hoped you'd calm down a little bit. No. Because when I finished it, I was like, the best book we've ever read. I don't think it's the best book. I think it's like we always say, non-fiction books are cheating because you didn't come up with this.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Fiction books are cheating because you came up with this. Anything can happen. How could it not be good?
That's also true.
So
yeah, you messed up.
So how could you make you pulled that, you know, out of anywhere, and how could it not be the best thing ever? Do you know what I mean? So
yeah, I suppose so.
But yeah, listen, we're not gonna keep you like as any longer. Go read it or don't read it, but go think about it. You should be ashamed of yourself.
Literally,
people.
if you're British, you're ashamed.
But yeah, there's more to come. We need, because we do an intro now. We need an outro.
Now we need an outro. Should we do that in the next video and do the whole?